Hi, this is Nancy Yearout, and welcome to my show, High Road to Humanity. In every episode, I tell you powerful true stories filled with great wisdom that you can use in your own life as you strive for a higher road to travel. My featured guests will have their own unique stories to tell that enlighten your mind and your soul. So kick back, relax, and learn the secret to success when you take the high road.
First touch, strong connection, it lays deep in your soul.
Hi, this is Nancy Yearout, and welcome to High Road to Humanity. And Diane Dreher is here today. She's a Ph.D. She's a best-selling author. She's a researcher. She's a positive psychology coach. She's written this great book. It's the Tao of Inner Peace. And welcome to High Road to Humanity, Diane.
Thank you, Nancy. Glad to be here.
I'm so glad you're with us today. There's so much information in this book, you guys. We are going to go through some of the things that have been around for thousands of years. And, you know, a lot of this information has been lost. And I'm really glad that you're bringing it back to people's attention, Diane. Thank you. So what I want to say is that this book has been translated more often than any other except the Bible. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Dell, but it's really, really interesting. It kind of reminds me in a way of Aesop's fables, where there was always a lesson. What do you think, Diane, to be learned? Very similar, huh?
Very similar and pretty much, the same age, thousands of years old, but very relevant to our lives today.
Right. And you guys, there are so many different principles in here, and I've marked some of them to read. I hope Diane doesn't mind during the show. She gives affirmations. This is really getting down to the core of what's going on in our world and how we can change ourselves, and then in order to change society. Don't you agree?
Yes. In fact, the Tao reveals the wisdom of living systems, the patterns of energy within and around us, and reminds us that the cycles of energy in nature are the same cycles of energy that we experience in our lives because we're part of nature.
Right.
So,
yeah, no,
what
there's
a concept.
I know there's so much. Well, before we hear your story, I did receive a message. I want to read it really quickly to the audience. I always bring forth what Gabriel has asked me to say. Sometimes he doesn't have anything, but today it's March 31st, 2022. And I'm going to read this briefly before we get into this material. He says, yes, my message is of hope. There is hope for humanity to rise above the ashes and ascend to a higher frequency. Many of you have been given the opportunity to change. Some have taken this opportunity and are raising their vibration now. Many are still not understanding what is occurring and are confused. The leaders of love will show them the way with their kindness and compassion, hearts and ways of being. And so I just want you guys to know, it really comes down to love. And I think the more people that raise their love vibration and show it are going to help those who haven't gotten to that point yet and help raise the vibration. So that's the message from Gabriel. And I thought it was really beautiful that he said that. Diane, what I really want to know is tell us your story. I mean, I'm going to rewind a little bit. You talk in the book how you were involved in political activism in the 1960s. Your goal was peace. I mean, that's how you start this book. So I guess kind of preface this with, how did you get into this,
Okay, well, actually, it was before I was in college. When I was 10 years old, my father was a colonel in the Air Force, a pilot.
Okay.
And we were moving all over the place. We were transferred to the Philippine Islands. And I'd lived in the Midwest and in California and various places, but this was a different world.
Okay.
We had windows of our house were made out of seashells, and mango and papaya trees grew in our yard. And my father brought back all this artwork from Tokyo and Hong Kong from his flights. And all of a sudden I realized there was this beautiful world of serenity, reverence for nature, that I hadn't known before. And I became absolutely fascinated by Asian art and culture. So I tried to paint, Chinese brush paintings at age 10, not so good, but, I felt that this world was really calling to me. and the East, and then the West. And we moved back and forth. And we then moved to Grandview, Missouri for my father's next assignment. And I was painting palm trees in my art class in the 6th grade. And all the other students laughed at me and said, Diane doesn't know how to draw a tree. She's got all the branches coming out from the top.
Oh my goodness.
And I thought, there is the wisdom of the East, and there's the wisdom of the West, and there is no one kind of tree in this world. There's a multiplicity of possibilities.
Mm-hmm.
But for the rest of my life, I tried to find a reconciliation of opposites, East and West. Began meditating a little bit when I was in college, and became very much involved in the peace movement, trying to realize that there are other ways to solve our problems rather than killing people and making war.
Exactly.
So I marched in demonstrations and got really involved in all of that. But there was a problem because my friends and I became, very polarized, and we figured that the other side was wrong. These people, how could they want to make war? What was wrong with them? And how could they discriminate against other people? What was wrong with them? And so what I did inadvertently, and what a lot of us did, was we became very self-righteous and polarized instead of seeing community, holistic, what Gabriel was saying, love. Gandhi's message was and still is, we must be the change we want to see in the world.
That's right.
And I've realized that now, that we have to, if we want to create peace around us, we need to reconcile the opposites within us and create peace within us first.
Very well said. You're exactly right. You say in the book, becoming a Dell person is to shift our attitudes towards peace. And that's just what you're talking about. It's changing our mindset to how we look at things. We as a society, and I don't want to get on my soapbox here, but we don't take care of our own. And it's so awful to see that we don't take care of each other. The kindness, where's the compassion? We've lost a lot of that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking that, again, going back to Gabriel's beautiful message, we need to get back in touch with hope, with love, with kindness for ourselves and others. To self-compassion, to set aside time for our own spiritual exercises, meditation, being part of nature, going out and taking walks, looking at the sky, realizing that we're part of something larger than ourselves, and not letting ego, stress, and defensiveness wall us off from other people.
Mm-hmm, exactly. There are so many things that you cover in this book. It says in Chinese, the day means personal power, the ability to see clearly, to act decisively, to be at the right place at the right time. I like this. So the day is seeing clearly. Those who don't know, you say, aren't seeing clearly. Talk about that a little bit.
Okay. The Tao Te Ching gives us a new perspective. That in Chinese characters, there's a character for human being, which looks like an inverted V, which is right. And the character for big is a line that goes out, horizontally, like you're holding your arms out and saying, this is big. And the line that above that, so there are two parallel lines, that whole character becomes Jian, or the character for nature, or all that is. And so human beings are part of nature. We're part of the one. We're part of something larger than ourselves. And that perspective changes the way we relate to other people, to our environment, to everything. We see the larger picture.
Right. And that's true. Once you become aware, you start to see the bigger picture. And that's taken me some time, but I think all of us are waking up. And as you go within, you start to see that. I want to read this from the book. This is seeing clearly. This is really interesting. It says, those who know they do not know gain wisdom. Those who pretend they know remain ignorant. Those who acknowledge their weakness become strong. Those who flaunt their power will lose it. Boy, isn't that the truth? Wisdom and power follow truth above all, for truth is the way of Tao. Very wise.
Yeah, to own our truth, to be in the
Yeah.
process of recognizing our truth. And,
Yeah.
this is an ongoing process, and it requires integrity, honesty, humility.
Mhm.
I don't know something. When I first started teaching, I was a college professor for many years. I got very nervous. What if my students ask me a question and I don't know the answer?
Oh,
Well, now I could fake it. I could tell a lie. That would not really help them learn anything. Or I
right.
would say, that's a really interesting question. Let's try to figure it out together. What do you think? And I'll go back and do some research, and I'll come back to class next time and we'll talk about it more. We're always learning, we're always growing, we're always in process. And to
Right.
acknowledge that process is to be one with Tao.
I love that. I love it. Well, we've only got a couple more minutes before we go to break, but one thing that really hit me was you talk about self-acceptance. You say that it means self-acceptance. You talk about Martha, this lady who works herself to exhaustion. There's a reason I'm bringing this up, because she hasn't learned self-acceptance. And you say the Tao people accept themselves as they are. And that's something, we're all, and I could see myself in this years ago. I'm getting better, but all of us are running around, trying to get everything done and everything done. And the more accomplished we are, the better we are, but we're exhausted and we're not enjoying life. And my goodness, that really hit home, because that's what a lot of people are doing. Talk about that. Will you, Diane?
Okay, well, very often when we don't really accept ourselves, because maybe in our childhood we were not accepted, somebody criticized us, we weren't good enough. There's a part of us that keeps pushing us to do more, to earn approval, get all kinds of credentials and degrees and awards to show that we're okay. And the Tao, again, in nature, none of the flowers in my garden seem to feel inferior. Daffodils bloom in the spring, great, they're very happy about that. Chrysanthemums bloom in the autumn, and they're very happy about that. And they're not criticizing each other like, what's wrong with you? You're not blooming yet, We all blossom in our own time.
In our own time.
Recognize we're unique. No human being on this planet has ever been exactly like you or me or anyone who's listening to this. We all have different fingerprints. Even identical twins have different fingerprints. To embrace our uniqueness and recognize our own unique personal gifts is part of the process of becoming really whole and healthy and one with Tao.
Thank you for explaining that. This is really important, that we accept ourselves for who we are and how we are.
Yeah.
And love ourselves for how we are. Hey, we got to go to commercial break. It's called the Tao of Inner Peace. I'm here today with Diane Dreher. This is Nancy Yearout. This is High Road to Humanity, and we will be right back.
Welcome to the Ascension Institute annual program. It is my sincere desire to support you and to bring you to a new level of mastery that will allow you to serve humanity in the way you've always wanted. My name is Maureen St. Germain, and I have led this program for over 7 years. It is my sincere gratitude that allows me to offer this to you at this time. Check it out. Thank you for listening.
Hi, this is Nancy Yearout, and this is High Road to Humanity, and I'm here today with Diane Dreher. The book is called The Tao of Inner Peace. If you're watching me on YouTube, I'm holding it up today. There's so much information that comes from wisdom of several thousand years ago. And, I was just talking to Diane about the self-acceptance thing, and so many people do that. And it's so nice that you're covering all these different things, because you talk about the yin and the yang. Talk about this, Diane.
Okay, well, there's a passage. There are 81 short poems in the Tao Te Ching, and one of them says that the Tao is the one, and from the one come yin and yang, and together they create harmony. All right. Yin is the peaceful, contemplative part of reality.
Okay.
The valley, and yang is the active, assertive part of reality. Mountain and valley, day and night, going within and going without. And our culture in the West is very, very yang. We're very busy, we're very active, we're very noisy, we're always going places and doing things. And what we lack is the balance of yin, the time to go within, to take a deep breath, to relax into our centers, because too much yin without action, we stagnate.
And there's not balance. There's no balance.
It's not balance. And too much yang, it's mindless action. We're just racing around all the time.
Right.
What's happened with COVID for a lot of people I know is it's made people go within.
Yes.
They've had to stay home and work remotely and social distance. And so they've gotten in touch with more of their yin awareness, and they're making changes in their lives because they realize that all this yang, it was just habit, and they were just racing around, but it really didn't mean anything to them. And so to go deeper within us is to find meaning and to combine yin and yang, awareness and action, so that we can be in balance and create greater balance around us.
Right. And when we create that balance, then we are more aware. And then when things do happen, it doesn't set us off. I really I'm going to skip around a little bit. In chapter 8, you talk about seeking simplicity, and you say, hold to these principles, seek simplicity, grasp the essential, overcome selfishness and wasteful desires. This is really starting to pay attention. When we go, and I want to talk about stuff too, because us Americans have for so long just figured whoever had the most stuff won, and it's crazy now. And I can only speak for myself at this point in my life. I'm wanting to get rid of stuff because the stuff doesn't make you happy. It's the inside, right? Connecting with the divine. And we haven't talked about that too much, but it's that connection, and it is that going within. And, we've gotten, simplicity seems to be the way. What do you think?
The Tao really does. And again, it's amazing. Way back then, 25 centuries and more, Lao Tzu recognized that we have a human tendency to want to collect things, to collect activities, to collect stuff. And, there's a difference between being fulfilled and being filled full. Right. And our Western culture seems to confuse the two of them.
Exactly. It's backwards. Like we think if we get all this stuff, that's going to fulfill us, but then it doesn't. And I watched this, over time, I've watched myself and other people collect all this stuff, but you don't take it with you when you go.
No. And if we have there have been psychological studies now that if we have too much clutter in our lives, we can't see clearly. We get stressed by too much stuff around us. So and we get too much stress when we have too much clutter in our minds. We can't hear our intuition. We can't hear our inner guidance when we have too much stuff.
That's true. Well, and I love this. She says, knowing when enough is enough. Many people mistakenly associate simplicity with poverty. I want to bring this up, but there's one vital difference. Simplicity is a matter of choice. Poverty is not. And that I kind of thought, just so you know, I didn't like the choice part. This is just Nancy talking here. I think we all have a choice. I think we can draw in prosperity or we can draw the mindset of poverty. But talk about this a little bit. What do you think?
Okay. Well, when people are poor and homeless, and there are a lot of people who are homeless in my state of California right now, they're suffering. This is not optimal. This is not a comfortable way to live. However, so that I think, yes, I think our attitude, the Tao says everything is energy, and our energies go out and attract, like energies, many, many ways. Perhaps the acquisitiveness is caused by some kind of anxiety as well as media advertising. that people feel anxious. And if they have more stuff, they feel more secure. They've got all this stuff around them. But that's another kind of poverty. You know, the real
Treasure.
spiritual health, I suppose, is balance, is having enough,
Yeah.
not too much.
Right.
And having enough means that we are, we're healthy. Poverty is the lack of what we need, right?
Right.
Somehow our needs are not being met. And there can be spiritual poverty as well as material poverty.
Yeah, because as you're talking about this, I think the treasure lies within, because you don't have to have anything as long as you feel fulfilled within. And the only way, in my mind, that I have become fulfilled is by connecting with the divine, higher source, God, whatever you want to call it. And, that really is it. I mean, I could have absolutely nothing, but as long as I'm connected with God, I'm cool. He's going to make sure I'm good because he takes care of the birds and the flowers and they don't worry. Right?
You bet. Consider the lilies of the field, right?
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing, and I know a lot of homeless people, and I don't want to make light of this subject at all, because there are a lot of people who are mentally ill and do have issues. And do you see that a lot where you are? You said there's a large homeless population. And I wonder if that, again, is just humanity not taking care of their own.
I think you're absolutely right. I volunteered for a while when I was getting my master's in counseling at a homeless shelter for women here in San Jose, California.
Okay.
And some of these women, they lost their jobs and their landlord raised the rent at the same time. The Tao talks about timing.
Yes. Yes.
Wonderful woman who is from the South, actually.
Okay.
Was just devastated. She said, I've worked since I was 16 years old. This has never happened to me before. But, the landlord sold the apartment. It was being made into condominiums at the same time she was laid off from her job. And so she lived, on her savings that was ran out. And there she was, feeling impoverished. And what we did, I said, where do you find your spiritual support? And she said, well, I can't go to church now because, I don't have my car anymore. But she said, I'm a Christian. And what she chose to do was take a walk in the nearby park and recite the 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. And then she noticed the birds and the trees and the sky and the flowers. And the next week she came back, for another session with me. She had dressed really well. She was feeling centered. She was applying for low-income housing and applying for jobs. She was no longer impoverished, even though she was still homeless. She was connected again to her.
She was connected to source. Yeah. That's what this is all about. It really is, isn't it? Yeah. If I could just get everybody to get up in the morning and brush their teeth and then connect. It's got to be just a habit. It has to be something. And I learned this myself. I mean, truly, I had to do it. I had to get up every day and start to connect when I was going through hard stuff. And now it's just a habit. I have to connect in the morning. And if I don't, well, I just would not. You know what I mean? It's to a point now where it's like, do you see what I'm saying? And we can get everybody to connect. That's what's going to raise our vibration here on the planet,
Absolutely. It's like our bodies need exercise and our emotional, spiritual selves need spiritual exercise.
Right.
Regular basis.
Well, and when we come back, I want to talk, there's a little bit in the book that talks about the joy of humor and how humor can, help us through a lot of things. And sometimes we forget, to lighten up. And you talk a little bit about this in the book, and maybe I'll read some. You guys, I'm here today with Diane Dreher. The book is The Tao of Inner Peace. This is Nancy Yearout, and this is High Road to Humanity. And I will be right back. Hi, this is Nancy Yearout, and this is High Road to Humanity. And I'm here today with Diane Dreher, and we're talking about The Tao of Inner Peace. It's a wonderful book. Diane, how long did it take you to put this together?
Probably a few lifetimes.
I would say a lot, huh? There's a lot of information in here.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to talk about the joy of humor. It says, Tao people laugh at life's ironies, finding joy in humor, even laughing at themselves. So when it says, when a conventional person hears about Tao, it breaks into laughter. If there was no laughter, it would not be Tao.
That's
Explain,
right.
explain.
When we're centered, we feel happier and we tend to laugh and to be, positive. When we laugh, psychologists and neuroscientists tell us it changes our brains. It takes us out of a stress reaction because laughing makes, shakes us up and releases the tension so we can see more clearly. And a few years ago, I interviewed Norman Cousins down at UCLA, where he was at the UCLA Medical Center on staff. Before that, he had been a journalist, an editor, and he had what was called an incurable progressive fatal illness, ankylosing spondylitis. And they said, there's nothing we can do. So he said, okay, well, he then had comedy movies brought into his hospital room and would laugh and found that his pain went away when he laughed. And the medical tests showed that he actually got better when he was laughing. And when I met him, he was totally healthy. The laughter had activated his immune system. It had cut the stress reaction. So laughter is incredibly good for our health physically and also emotionally, because stress shuts down our higher brain centers and makes us defensive and anxious and fearful. And when we're that way, we really can't think clearly and we can't relate to the people and the situations around us.
Yeah.
So we all need to laugh more.
Yeah.
Good for us on many levels.
Yeah. Well, and it goes back to the same thing. And I will say this, when you connect, you are more joyful.
Yeah.
You just are. I mean, I've actually witnessed all these things, you guys, that we're talking about today. And I bet you have too. I mean, when did you start to realize that you were changed from connecting?
Oh my gosh. We need connections. The Tao tells us, the Tao person reaches out from the heart to create community, to connect with nature, to connect with our spiritual source, and to connect with other people.
Yes.
If it's just walking down the street and waving at a neighbor.
Right.
What I've noticed lately, since I wrote the book, I've gotten much more into doing research in positive psychology.
Okay.
There's a positive psychologist, Barbara Fredrickson, who is in North Carolina. Yes. And she has a book called Love 2.0. And she's found that micro moments of connectivity, saying a kind word to the clerk at the grocery store, waving at a neighbor, just, those split seconds, what that does, it benefits both people. It lowers blood pressure. It activates immune system. And we feel a burst of joy when we do that.
Right. Yeah. And I always ask people, what brings you joy? And sometimes people have to really think about it, because they don't know what brings them joy. There's something you talk about in the book. It says peace is harmony with natural laws. You say the Tao people harmonize with natural laws. Wars and social conflicts are symptoms of imbalance, society, diseases caused by unhealthy social orders. And this is what you're kind of talking about here. When we go out into the world, and if people are nasty and they're not kind, it really changes our vibration.
It really does. And there's research at the HeartMath Institute in California that our energies directly affect the energies of the people we're with. And we've all experienced this. You can be with somebody and feel really energized and joyful. And after, you've seen that person.
Right.
And for other people, where you can feel totally energy drained.
Yeah, exactly. Energy vampires. They don't even mean it. But what I tell the audience is when you go out into the world, and this is the only way I know to handle it, you go out with a positive attitude and you go out centered and balanced because you're connected, and you can watch people do things around you, try to cut in front of you, just let them go. And it changes you, doesn't it? Instead of going, oh my gosh, he cut in front of me. you're just like, oh, he must be in a bigger hurry than me, and that's okay. You know, so you kind of start to change as you go within and you start to be aware of what's going on. And I guess what I'm trying to get across is the nastiness kind of subsides because when you approach it from a loving energy aspect, do you know what I'm saying here? It changes them.
We can bring light into the darkness by
Yes.
our attitude. And
Yes.
it makes us feel better too. I mean, out here in California, we have these freeways and people cut in front and do all kinds of crazy things.
Oh, yeah.
And instead of cursing at them, which doesn't make me feel good, I now bless them. I just figure, bless that poor person. That person is stressed.
Right. Right.
And that person be surrounded by the light and blessed. And then I feel better. And maybe if more of us blessed instead of cursed people that irritate us, maybe we change the energy of our planet.
I agree with you. It took me a long time to get to this point, though. I have to tell
me
you.
too.
I mean, but I'm glad I'm here. And one thing you talked about, and you just mentioned it a little bit, living in harmony with our neighbors. And it's true. A lot of us don't even know who our neighbors are, don't know their names, and try to avoid them. And I know this. But because a lot of people are like that. And then some people are like, oh, well, I really want to get to know my neighbors and say hello, like you were just saying. Now, you talk in the book, and I'm going to pull this up here on 133. This really caught me. And you say, how well do you know the natural landscape in your area? Take this self-scoring quiz and see. Now, this, you know what I'm talking. Do you mind if I read a couple of these?
Oh, good idea. Sure.
And she says, what trees grow in your local area? Name or describe 5. What wildflowers grow in your area? Name 5. Name 5 edible plants native to your region. Name 5 locally grown fruits and vegetables. What birds are native to your region? Name 5 or more. Which birds migrate and which are year-long residents? Like, do people really know this? What other non-human neighbors are native to your area? And what has happened to your local environment in the past 50 years? Are there any birds or animals in danger of extinction? If so, what is the cause? And as I read this, I knew some of it, but not as much as I should.
Yeah. Well, our very yang culture cuts us off from the natural world.
I know.
And yet, to know their names.
Yeah.
I put a bird feeder outside my kitchen window, and for 2 days, nothing happened. My husband said, oh, they'll come, they'll find it. Well, now all these beautiful, colorful birds come, and house finches, which have red, on the tops of their feathers. We have woodpeckers who come, we have goldfinches which are gold. And kinds of, colorful, beautiful birds, plus a hummingbird feeder is also there.
Right. Yeah.
I love seeing them.
Right.
And I think that's a micro moment of connectivity. I don't know what it does for them, but it makes me feel happy just to see these beautiful natural creatures who are that close to me.
Right. No, I've got 2 road runners. Well, actually I have 3 that live in the backyard. Oh. Okay. And so you got the mom and dad and the baby, and the mom and dad are fat. I have fat road runners, but they've lived behind my house for years. And I'm like you, I feed the birds and I watch them come. But the cool thing is when you see the road runner up in the fountain getting a drink, or if like yesterday, I saw a squirrel, there was a gray squirrel that comes on down. Oh, she's feeding again, and it's just interesting, like you say, to see all the different birds. I have doves too, that come every day, and you get used to it. And then, but it's always, I will say this, I hate to be such a nature freak, but every time I see those road runners, they're just amazing. And I just stand there and watch them, and they're not afraid of me. It's to the point, I want to talk about this a little bit, if you don't mind, and maybe you'll mention it too. When you are more in harmony and in balance, I can tell you, I can go out in my yard and they don't run away. Talk about this a little bit, Diane.
Okay. Human beings process a lot of our perception verbally as well as non-verbally. We've got words, and animals are usually nonverbal. I mean, they
Psychic.
communication,
Yeah.
but they're very sensitive
Yeah.
to our energies. So if your energies are peaceful and harmonious, then they're comfortable around you. They don't consider you a threat. But if you're anxious and uptight, the animal will think, uh-oh, we've got a problem here. There's a whole therapy now, equine therapy with horses who are very sensitive to energies. And they can tell. You cannot fool a horse.
I love it.
If you can say, hi, I'm really happy, and the horse says, sure. And since they're prey animals, they have to be very sensitive. So they react. And therapists will bring horses and human beings together. A lot of autistic therapy happens with horses. And somehow the horses tune into the people's energies, reinforce them, and help people learn to recognize their own energies. So our energies go out from us with everything we do. And if our energy is one of joy and balance and love, animals feel it, and so do human beings. But, we get blocked by our verbalism sometimes.
Yeah, we do. But it's true. And I love being out in nature. And the more you do connect, I will say, it's a whole different feel. It actually, I knew it, but I was surprised when it first happened. And this is a few years ago, you go out and they don't move. They're like, oh, it's okay. She's cool. Yeah. It's kind of neat. Anyway, we've got to go to commercial break. I'm here today with Diane Dreher. The book is The Tao of Inner Peace. This is Nancy Yearout. This is High Road to Humanity, and we'll be right back. Hi, this is Nancy Yearout, and this is High Road to Humanity, and I'm here today with Diane Dreher. The book is The Tao of Inner Peace, and I asked her if she mind if we talk about the way of love. It's chapter 19 in her book, and she says, I hold three treasures close to my heart. The first is love, the next simplicity, and the third overcoming ego. Talk about love and ego and all of this. What do you think, Diane?
Love is what we feel when we're connected to others, to nature, to our higher self, to our spiritual source. And ego is when we're feeling disconnected and defensive. And that can take many, many forms. The desire to prove ourselves, to desire to be busy, 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 okay, is one way of focusing on ego. Another way is to be defensive and to put up blocks between ourselves and others because we feel like we're not okay. And we don't want them to find out that we're human and we're not perfect. So we've got to do this thing.
Well said. Well said. Mm-hmm.
Love is transcending ego. And it can happen on many levels. I see it as connecting with nature. It's connecting with something that we love to do. Mahai Csikszentmihalyi talks about being in a flow state, which is when all ego and inner critic disappears and we're one with the process. And that's exhilarating. People can get into flow, being in a wonderful conversation, communing and communicating, skiing, doing something artistic, doing something creative, listening to music, being inspired, being in a state of awe. That's connection that transcends ego. And I think that our culture, for one reason or another, puts people in a defensive ego state. We've become very polarized. This person thinks differently politically than I do, so this person is a threat. Therefore,
it's bad, right? Exactly.
Bad. I've got to do this thing.
Yeah.
Instead of looking for common ground. And I think part of love is finding common ground and recognizing that there is always common ground. We're living on it. It's called planet Earth.
Yeah. Very good. Very good.
Now, we have much more in common than we do that separates us. So I've been experimenting with active listening to people who are different political points of view and seeing, recognizing the differences and then recognizing where we connect. And that's really, it's like a detective challenge. Where can I find a connection with this?
Looking for the connection instead of the disconnection.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then that's a path to creative Tao conflict resolution, which I learned from Dudley Weeks, who's an international conflict resolution facilitator. He said, we listen to our own hearts, ask what we really need, get beyond ego. We listen to the other person, and then we listen to where our needs correspond, where they connect, where are our shared needs, and how can we then build together a bridge on that common ground and bring us together. And it's a skill that should be taught, I think, in school.
I agree. I think we should learn how to connect, and about energy, and that we are energy. Why did I have to get older before I realized that I had chakras and they spin, and how to clear my energy field? All this stuff we need to start teaching our children as they're younger. Do you see any changes? I see a lot of change in the world right now. This is what I see, and I want to know what you think. I see a lot of people waking up, and then I see people who just refuse and they're not there yet. And that's where the conflict still lies. What do you think?
I think that's right on. You're absolutely right. There are many changes happening on our planet, physical changes, climate change.
Energetically.
Yeah, and energy changes, and people who can see the changes and find harmony and take some kind of positive action. They embrace change, as the Tao says, because the Tao is a sense of dynamic change and dynamic cycles. And there are a lot of people who are scared, who are frightened of change, who hide, and who get very defensive. And so we've got those two reactions. But a lot of the young people, college students, and people in high school are waking up more rapidly than some of their parents.
Right.
And
yeah.
That is as a real sign of hope. They're looking at differences and saying, isn't that interesting? Not that I'm afraid of the difference. And they're looking at the environment and saying, how can we honor, love, and protect and preserve our environment?
That's true. You talk about resolving conflict in the book. You say you have a whole section, the way of peace, and with everything that's going on in the world, I do watch the news a little bit, so I know what's going on, but I take everything with a grain of salt and I just observe. That's where I'm at with this. And then like you said earlier in your, when we were speaking, you said, you be the peace within, and that's what brings the peace with everybody. What do you think about these conflicts going on in the world right now? What can we do? Do you think it's going within each one of us and becoming that peace?
I think we have to, because if we want to take any kind of action in our communities, in our families, in our workplaces, in the, politics, wherever we feel called, we have to be balanced in order to come up with action that's going to make sense, that's going to make peace. So our first responsibility each day is to find our own inner balance and to learn processes that will help us maintain that. A long time ago, John Kabat-Zinn, who of course does mindfulness, meditation, mindfulness-based, stress release in BSR, came to Santa Clara University where I was teaching, gave a talk, and a student stood up and said, "Don't you think that with all the problems we have in the world, that it's really selfish of you to spend so much time in meditation?"
My. Wow, they had it totally backwards, huh?
John Kabat-Zinn took a deep, mindful breath and then said, "When I go to the Boston Symphony, I notice that the musicians all first tune their instruments before they begin playing. And I see my meditative practice as tuning my instrument so that I can create greater harmony." I see that as our responsibility, and it will make a difference.
And it does. That's a wonderful analogy. It's true. We have to be in tune. That's exactly it. We have to be in tune. We have to be connected first with the divine. I know that our society has been conditioned to do these, to be the way we are, but it's so nice to see that people are waking up and they're changing and they're realizing the importance of the connection and the importance of the harmony and the peace and the love. It's starting to happen. Yes.
Yes. And it's starting to happen even more when people get together and share insights about how they're doing it. So I really thank you very much, Nancy, for all you're doing to help
thank you.
peace on this planet.
Oh, God bless. Thanks for everything you do. This is amazing. I just want to say, you guys, this is a great book to have around the house. So you can pick it up and just open it. And there's so much information that, it's just awesome. Is there any other story you want to leave us with before we get out of here? We got about 3 minutes or so. Is there something important you want to say? I
would like to just acknowledge the fact that my publisher put out a new audiobook edition of the Tao of Inner Peace that came a few weeks ago. They had planned this. They didn't realize we were going to have major war when this came out. Right. But I think it's for people who like to listen to books. It's a wonderful way to share this. And then I'd like to leave with a beautiful Tao quote that I really like, that gives me hope. It's the way to greater light lies through the darkness. Going ahead can seem like falling back. The even path seems rugged and hilly, the highest power a yielding valley. But the Tao tells us that the way to greater light leads through the darkness. We need to acknowledge what we're feeling and where we are and look to the light. And looking to the light can mean finding moments of joy in our lives. Looking out at the sunrise or looking at the sunset, looking at the squirrels scampering around in our yard, or the beautiful birds, or the light in a loved one's eyes. Because we need to find the light in our lives to be able to share the light with the world. That's beautiful. Beautifully said, Diane. So if people want to get in touch with you, Diane, do you have a website? Oh, yes. It's www, the usual, DianeDreher.com, and that's DianeDreher.com, which is my Authors Guild website. And they can sign up for my Tao of Inner Peace seasonal newsletter that comes out with every season of the year, just 4 times a year, with reminders and lessons from the Tao Te Ching. I'm going to sign up. I think that's awesome. Thank you for writing this, putting this together. This is a wealth of information and the world needs it right now. So thank you. And the audiobook. So if they want to get the audiobook, do they go to your website or Amazon or? The website has a link, Amazon. Okay. The website has a link to Amazon. They can I love it. Okay. All right. You guys, the book is called The Tao of Inner Peace. It's by Diane Dreher. It's a beautiful book. And this is something that everybody should read, honestly. Brings us back to what's important in life. Diane, thanks for coming on the show today. I truly appreciate it. I hope you'll come back again and see me. Thank you, Nancy. Peace to you. Peace to you. Hey, you guys, if you want an angel reading, go to my website, nancyyearout.com. And I'm putting all my messages from Gabriel up there. And you can catch me on TikTok pulling angel cards. And I've got a new class I'm working on, and it's about love. And so when it's done, I'll let everybody know. But I'm really excited about that. Diane, I hope you have a terrific week. Thanks for coming on. You guys, thanks for joining us. This is Nancy Yearout. This is High Road to Humanity. And we will see you next time. Everybody take care and God bless.
Connect the dots and keep the motion. Can achieve your goal. Let's hit the high road.
Hey, you guys, join me next week on The High Road for more stories filled with wisdom, love, and hope for our future. Have a fabulous week and know that by staying on the high road, you will make it to your destination. Visit my website, nancyyearout.com, where you can book a private session to learn how to tap into your own abilities. And check out my YouTube channel. It's Nancy Yearout's High Road to Humanity.
You can achieve your goal.